She creates healthy meals. She also lectures around the country. And so we're thrilled to have her at the Dallas Fed. So welcome, Kim.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, hello everyone. This talk is on how to achieve optimal performance through nutrition. And unfortunately, this is the American diet. Standard American diet. It is very sad. And we just load up on all of these acidic foods. We're going to talk a little bit later about alkalinity, and acidity. But basically, the typical American diet is like meat, potatoes, alcohol, sugar, caffeine, fast food, fried food, all the things that we love and enjoy many, many times a day. And it creates a lot of havoc on the body, a lot of acidity, and there's a lot of problems with these fast food. And I don't just mean McDonald's and Burger King, but it can be anything that you get a quick bite, things you pick up that might be prepared at the grocery store, and just even something like condiments like ketchup and things like that. So we kind of may already be aware that these foods are high in salt and sugar, but they're also high in pesticides, in hormones, in chemicals, artificial chemicals. Even if you see a product that might say naturally flavored as opposed to artificially flavored, that's still made from chemicals that are harmful to the body, so don't get caught up in the lingo. These foods are often high in trans fats and calories, and this can lead to a lot of disease, and it can trigger inflammation. So that's another key word here, is inflammation, which can manifest in so many ways in the body. Well, we know some of these foods aren't good for us, but why do we make these choices? Well, some very valid reasons, and it's not just laziness, but it's really emotional comfort to fill a void of emptiness, of stress, of anxiety. Could be peer pressure. Everyone in the office is going for chips and salsa margaritas after work, and you want to join in on the fun. It obviously tastes good, so the flavor plays a role. Habits, we just get in a habit of doing the same thing every day. Time constraints, we might work long days or have kids at home and not feel like preparing a long, healthy meal, so we kind of grab what's quick. So there are a lot of reasons, and these are very valid reasons, but just imagine this for a second. You can close your eyes or not, but imagine that you are at your local drugstore here. Maybe is it Walgreens? Do you have Walgreens? Okay, you're at Walgreens and you're just going to buy batteries or Kleenex, something very innocent. And you're waiting online, probably not as long as the line in New York, but there might be a few people in front of you, and you pass the candy aisle, or you're looking at the chips aisle as you walk through. And it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or it's after work, or around lunchtime, and you're just feeling that little bit of slump and low energy, and you could use a little pick-me-up, and there's a little innocent bag of M&M's sitting there, and on your way to pay for your batteries, you just pick out this little bag of M&M's. I'm sure none of you have ever done that, but you might know someone who has. So, you go back to your office, for example, and you're at your desk, and you eat your M&M's, and they're tasting really good, and everything's fine, and you get that little bit of a sugar rush. And then maybe later you may crash. You may feel a little bit of fatigue, a little brain fog, a little hungry again, maybe needing a second cup of coffee. So basically, this is an impulse buy. And the stores and the marketing companies are very good at this. This is an impulse buy, and we are very susceptible to impulse all over the grocery stores. You can go basically into any store, now Radio Shack, any of these stores to buy anything, an electronic or Best Buy or Staples, and there's a candy aisle and a chips aisle and all that. But ultimately, you might say, I'm someone who doesn't eat sweets. But then you think about it, and there were 3 different times this week that you maybe went to the hardware store or wherever it was, and you ended up buying something sweet or being at the movies or wherever it was, and before you know it, you're like, actually, I ate a sweet treat every day this week or 3 or 4 days this week. So this impulse becomes a habit. And this habit becomes your character, because then 5-10 years go by and you're someone who's gained about 5, 10, 15 pounds. You go to the doctor for your physical, your cholesterol's a little high, maybe you have pre-diabetes or metabolic syndrome, maybe you have high blood pressure, maybe you do a stress test. Different elements on your blood test could be a little bit out of whack, and you're just not feeling 100%. You may think you're running at 100%, but really you're running at 60%. So this has now become your character, that you're someone who's carrying extra weight and has high cholesterol, for example. Ultimately, this character becomes your destiny, because then the years go by and you were someone who ended up with, let's say, heart disease. atherosclerosis, clogged arteries, or you had a stroke, or you had a heart attack, or you got cancer. So these little...
All right, here we go, everybody. Are you ready? All right, good. All right, so I'm really honored that we've got Kim Ross here. Kim is a longtime friend of mine over the last many, many years, and we had the brilliant idea, maybe we should have Kim come to Dallas. And have you ever been to Dallas?
No.
She has never been to Dallas. You ever been to Texas?
Yes, Austin.
You ever left New York? No, seriously. Kim is, that's not even funny. Kim is from Chicago. She has, I'll just tell you where you've read her background, but she went to the University of Michigan. Okay, so that's good. She got her Master's of Science from NYU in Clinical Nutrition and Dietetics. She completed her internship at Mount Sinai in New York City, which is a great hospital in New York. She used to head the nutrition program for the Equinox Fitness Clubs. That means a lot to us, which she ran for several years, but she's also been a contributing author to a number of books on boost your immunity, fertility, diet. She's got a very broad degree of specialization, and some of you wonder why I'm talking about fertility, but Kim has a real expertise in this and how it relates to diet, and this is a lot of people consult with Kim on this subject. Kim has never heard me introduce her before. It's probably a horrifying experience for her. But Kim, most importantly, has a private practice in Manhattan, and she's sole nutritionist at Rockefeller University. She lectures, she blogs, she creates healthy meals. She also lectures around the country. And so we're thrilled to have her at the Dallas Fed. So welcome, Kim.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, hello everyone. This talk is on how to achieve optimal performance through nutrition. And unfortunately, this is the American diet. Standard American diet. It is very sad. And we just load up on all of these acidic foods. We're going to talk a little bit later about alkalinity, and acidity. But basically, the typical American diet is like meat, potatoes, alcohol, sugar, caffeine, fast food, fried food, all the things that we love and enjoy many, many times a day. And it creates a lot of havoc on the body, a lot of acidity, and there's a lot of problems with these fast food. And I don't just mean McDonald's and Burger King, but it can be anything that you get a quick bite, things you pick up that might be prepared at the grocery store, and just even something like condiments like ketchup and things like that. So we kind of may already be aware that these foods are high in salt and sugar, but they're also high in pesticides, in hormones, in chemicals, artificial chemicals. Even if you see a product that might say naturally flavored as opposed to artificially flavored, that's still made from chemicals that are harmful to the body, so don't get caught up in the lingo. These foods are often high in trans fats and calories, and this can lead to a lot of disease, and it can trigger inflammation. So that's another key word here is inflammation, which can manifest in so many ways in the body. Well, we know some of these foods aren't good for us, but why do we make these choices? Well, some very valid reasons, and it's not just laziness, but it's really emotional comfort to fill a void of emptiness, of stress, of anxiety. Could be peer pressure. Everyone in the office is going for chips and salsa margaritas after work, and you want to join in on the fun. It obviously tastes good, so the flavor plays a role. Habit, we just get in a habit of doing the same thing every day. Time constraints, we might work long days or have kids at home and not feel like preparing a long, healthy meal, so we kind of grab what's quick. So there are a lot of reasons, and these are very valid reasons, but just imagine this for a second. You can close your eyes or not, but imagine that you are at your local drugstore here, maybe is it Walgreens? Do you have Walgreens? Okay, you're at Walgreens and you're just going to buy batteries or Kleenex, something very innocent. And you're waiting online, probably not as long as the line in New York, but there might be a few people in front of you, and you pass the candy aisle, or you're looking at the chips aisle as you walk through. And it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or it's after work or around lunchtime, and you're just feeling that little bit of slump and low energy, and you could use a little pick-me-up, and there's a little innocent bag of M&M's sitting there, and on your way to pay for your batteries, you just pick out this little bag of M&M's. I'm sure none of you have ever done that, but you might know someone who has. So, you go back to your office, for example, and you're at your desk and you eat your M&Ms and they're tasting really good and everything's fine and you get that little bit of a sugar rush. And then maybe later you may crash. You may feel a little bit of fatigue, a little brain fog, a little hungry again, maybe needing a second cup of coffee. So basically, this is an impulse buy. And the stores and the marketing companies are very good at this. This is an impulse buy, and we are very susceptible to impulse all over the grocery stores. You can go basically into any store, now Radio Shack, any of these stores to buy anything, an electronic or Best Buy or Staples, and there's a candy aisle and a chips aisle and all that. But ultimately, you might say, I'm someone who doesn't eat sweets. But then you think about it, and there were 3 different times this week that you maybe went to the hardware store or wherever it was, and you ended up buying something sweet or being at the movies or wherever it was, and before you know it, you're like, actually, I ate a sweet treat every day this week or 3 or 4 days this week. So this impulse becomes a habit. And this habit becomes your character, because then 5, 10 years go by, and you're someone who's gained about 5, 10, 15 pounds. You go to the doctor for your physical, your cholesterol's a little high, maybe you have pre-diabetes or metabolic syndrome, maybe you have high blood pressure, maybe you do a stress test. Different elements on your blood test could be a little bit out of whack, and you're just not feeling 100%. You may think you're running at 100%, but really you're running at 60%. So this has now become your character, that you're someone who's carrying extra weight and has high cholesterol, for example. Ultimately, this character becomes your destiny, because then the years go by and you were someone who ended up with, let's say, heart disease, atherosclerosis, clogged arteries, or you had a stroke, or you had a heart attack, or you got cancer. So these little impulse moves every day create these habits that create our character, that create our destiny. So very important to be mindful when we eat. So we have good reasons for why we do it, but what are the consequences? Well, it's not just the disease that we just talked about, but it's also physiological and emotional stress, which can manifest in many ways. Weakening the immune system. For example, Halloween through Christmas is party time, especially for the kids, in Halloween, and the adults for the holidays. And kids and adults tend to get colds and flus around that time, which also correlates with some weight gain. And part of this is because we really increase our alcohol, our sugar, and other treats that we might not normally eat. And that affects our physiological stress and our emotional stress and our immune system, which can lead to premature aging, obviously weight gain, malnourishment, which I'll talk about a little bit later, adrenal burnout, which are your glands that handle stress, the adrenal glands, inflammation and an acidic system, as we discussed, and then fatigue and an imbalance of gut bacteria. So what is gut bacteria? What is all this stuff? Raise your hand if you've heard the term microbiome. A few of you. Okay. So this basically means all that bacteria, good and bad, that's running through your whole body, specifically your gut, right? Your small intestine, your large intestine, your stomach. We have this whole system, and there are more of those organisms there are of human cells, believe it or not. This affects cancer, weight, longevity, your whole life, your mood. Everything depends on this microbiome. This can keep you well, or this can make you sick. So some symptoms might not be things just like tummy problems. It might not just be irritable bowel syndrome known as IBS, or bloating, some of the obvious things, bathroom issues, but it can manifest as a headache or a migraine. It can manifest as brain fog, fatigue, if you get tired, if you get itchy, eczema, psoriasis, fertility problems, weight gain, arthritis, and joint pain. People might think that's aging or because they're working out either too much or too little. But all these stem from the gut. Everything first stems from the gut. So if you're not feeling 100%, look at your diet first. What about sugar? Well, we love it, but we know it's an evil, right? It triggers the pleasure centers in the brain in an area called the basal ganglia. And this is the same area that gets lit up when we have cocaine or drugs. Sugar will light up the same portion of the brain. So we can see why this can become very addictive, which one day was, let's say you went off sugar for 3 months, or you're someone who doesn't eat sugar. But then you all of a sudden had that bag of M&Ms. Oh my God, it's so sweet, there's so much sugar. Whereas when you get off sugar for 3 months, an apple or an orange is very sweet. So then you just have 1 or 2 M&Ms, And that is fine. That's very sweet. That's sweet enough. And then it becomes the mini pack, the child size pack, and then it becomes the regular size pack. Then it becomes the king size. And then you're like, I could really go for another pack. You could almost eat a whole thing. So what happens is it becomes very addictive, and that pleasure center is going to require more to be lit up, okay? And this can increase various disease, and sugar is very acidic. Now, think about it this way. Let's just say this little innocent cookie here is 100 calories, and let's just say it's 2 grams of fat for purposes of the conversation, which isn't true, but let's just say it is. Well, in this cookie is flour, sugar, baking soda, chocolate chips, a lot of chemicals, maybe some butter, et cetera. A lot of things that were made in factories, all put together to make this delicious little innocent cookie, right? Well, we eat this cookie and we may feel pretty good, but your body says, okay, I need to metabolize this cookie. I need to break it down and utilize it for energy. How am I going to do that? Well, where's the calcium in this cookie to alkalize the acidity from the cookie? Oh, there's no calcium in this cookie. Oh, well, I'm going to pull it from my bones. So one of the reasons that Americans have one of the highest rates of osteoporosis is because we eat a high sugar diet and we're constantly leaching the calcium from our bones to alkalize all the acidic foods that we eat. Some of you might not have known that. Now your body says, well, where am I going to get the zinc? Oh, I'll pull it from the muscles. Where am I going to get the iron? I'll pull it from the blood. On and on. Where am I going to get all these nutrients, the B vitamins, the enzymes? I'm going to pull it from my storage areas. So you can be obese. You can be 500 pounds and be malnourished. You can also be 10 pounds underweight and be very nourished. So it's not about what you look like. It's about, are you getting the nutrients you need for optimal functioning? Not just in the workplace, but in your life. So this can also affect the blood sugar levels, which create a very much of a burn and crash syndrome. So basically, this is what happens. Raise your hand if you've heard of insulin, or you know how that was. All of you. Okay. So we eat something sweet, and we get a blood sugar rush. Our pancreas then secretes insulin to take that blood sugar out of the bloodstream for safety areas. It will store it as glycogen in the muscles for our next workout, or it'll store it as fat, as adipose tissue. Okay. So this pancreas secretes the insulin, which triggers the cells to pull glucose from the blood for storage. And then, unfortunately, this doesn't sound like it would make sense, but it does. That leaves less glucose available for brain function. So the more sugar and refined carbohydrates that you eat, and your body's busy dealing with that glucose, the less available brain function, mental clarity you're going to have. That's one of the reasons that sometimes some of these lower carb diets or paleo diets have become more popular, not just for weight loss, but people often think, oh, when I get rid of the breads and the sugars, I feel clearer and I feel sharper at work. So this can lead to a whole bunch of symptoms like nervousness, irritability, confusion, etc. This cycle. So you want your blood, raise your hand if you've ever been to the Caribbean or some vacation with a beach where it's calm seas. You know how that water is very warm and calm, no waves? That's what we want our blood sugar to be like, very even and stable. It's going to go up and down a little bit throughout the day from food and hormones and things. We do not want it to be like Hawaii, like the Pacific, or like the big waves, because laws of nature say what goes up must come down. As high as you fly from a Frappuccino in the morning, your Starbucks Frappuccino, or your hazelnut latte, and your bagel with cream cheese, or your bread with jam, or your cereal, or your donut, or your yogurt and granola, which is loaded with sugar, it's as low as you're going to crash around 11, 12. And then you're like, oh my God, I have so much brain fog. I can't think. I'm irritable. I'm nervous. I'm hungry. I'm tired. I can't think. I got to go get lunch. All right, you have lunch. You're feeling good. Then 2, 3, 4 o'clock, oh my God, I need something again. I got to get the second cup of coffee. I got to get a snack. You're up here. So this vicious cycle can happen all day long, which leads to a whole host of problems. What do we do about it? We already know a lot of these things that aren't so great about kind of why we make these choices and the habits, but what is going to give us, I think we can all agree that we want to be happy, we want to be healthy, we want to feel clear, sharp, and calm throughout the day. If we have a list of 10 things on our to-do list, we want to be able to check them off. All of them, not just 1 or 2 of them, which might happen. We want to jump out of bed in the morning and not have to press snooze 5 times and feel exhausted. We want to sleep well through the night. These are our goals. And these will help us achieve really more happiness in life. So one way we can do that is the benefit of eating more plant foods. Now, you may think that plant foods are just fruits and vegetables, but it's not true, and that's the great news. Plant foods are also beans, grains, whole grains, healthy fats like coconut meat, avocado, lot of plant foods out there that can be very healthy, okay? Quinoa, brown rice. And so these plant foods have a life force. For example, what do I mean by life force? Not to get too ethereal here, but if you take an apple and you take a bite of that apple and you leave it sit out, what happens? It turns brown. That is called oxidative damage. That was a live food that is slowly dying. Just like the brown spots on our arms and on our face as we age, that's oxidative damage. Or a swing set after many years of being in the rain and the elements turns rusty, that's oxidative damage. We're doing that to our bodies all the time. So we want to eat foods with a lot of antioxidants in them, okay? That will prevent our own cells from being oxidized. So these plant foods, these rainbow colored plant foods, have this life force which is vibrating at a very high rate, a very elevated rate. So imagine this, you take an apple seed, you plant it in the ground, you do nothing, you stand back, and just from the sun, the water, the earth, amazingly, this apple tree grows and it bears fruit that can sustain us for life. We do nothing, we eat this apple. In this apple is everything that it needs to be digested. It has enzymes, water, potassium, vitamins, minerals, just in the way that nature intended. So when we eat this, our bodies have to do almost no work because everything that we need is in this apple, so we don't have to pull from our storage areas. That's why whole plant foods are so great. They're nutrient dense and they fill you up. And they fill you up because they have a lot of water. The heavier the food, the more water it has in it when it comes to nature. They also have a lot of fiber, which fills our belly and stretches our belly a little bit, which is good because that sends a signal to the brain saying, I'm full, stop eating, okay? They're anti-aging because of these antioxidants and these nutrients. You know, some examples can also be nuts and seeds, and we want to try to get 15 servings a day. So that might sound like a lot, but think about it this way. Do you know the places, tell me if you have these here in Texas, where it's like the make your own salad place or a big salad bar like a Sweetgreens or something like that? Okay. If you go to one of those salad places and the base is lettuce and then you pick, let's say, 3 or 4 different vegetables to add in, or maybe a bean, a little quinoa, and like 3 other colors, let's say tomatoes, carrots, and cabbage, okay? In the green base of spinach, let's say. You're already gonna get almost 3 to 5 servings right there, just in one salad. Because the serving size is just about a cup, okay? So, and then let's say you have some nuts as a snack, or a little peanut butter, or a little almond butter, and then you have some fruit in the morning, or fruits as a snack, and then you have some oatmeal with that. It's very easy to end up getting 15 servings a day, and it's really just eating a few at each meal and maybe a snack or 2, okay? Animal foods. No judgment if you choose to eat animal foods or not. If you do, you want to try, and this goes with produce too, to try to buy organic when you can. I want to say one more thing about the fruits and vegetables. You want to try to buy organic when you can to get less pesticides in the system. Just going to go back for a second. And I just want to say that if you can't afford to buy organic, you can buy frozen, which is much less expensive, frozen organic, or buy it when it's in season in the summer and then just wash it and freeze it. Or you don't have to worry about buying organic if it's anything that you have to peel, because the pesticides can't get through, let's say, an orange peel or a coconut or a kiwi or an avocado. So don't even worry about that. It's just the things with the nooks and crannies like asparagus and raspberries and strawberries and lettuces and things like that you really want to worry about. There's a list called the Daily Zazen you can look up online. So animal foods. We want to eat animal foods that are what we call free range or pasture raised. And why is this? Yes, it's a couple more bucks, but it's so important when it comes to eggs, cow products, and chicken products specifically, especially if you're watching your weight or you have any family history of disease, even if you're the right weight, if you have any family history of disease. And that's because conventional animals will eat corn and soy. Why? To make them fatter faster, so they can turn around the meat and sell it as fast as possible to make a profit. Those are genetically modified. Those have pesticides, hormones, and antibiotics in them. When that cow or that chicken is eating hormone-laden, is filled up with hormones or eating the soy and the corn, you're then eating that. So you're poisoning your own body. Whereas if it's a little free-range chicken that gets to eat flax seeds and bugs and grasses, and it's getting probiotics, it's getting cultured bacteria, it's getting conjugated linoleic acid, which helps with weight loss, and the whole composition of the fat of that egg or that piece of chicken or steak or burger is going to be different, much healthier, okay? So when you can try to buy organic, now you'll see a lot of all natural. Be careful with the words all natural. You want to look for no hormones, no antibiotics, okay? And in general, eat less meat overall. You don't need to be eating meat 3 times a day, okay? You can eat a vegetarian or vegan meal every once in a while and you'll survive. Also, vary your selection. If you're someone who loves chicken in 10 different ways, maybe one day you have lamb. Maybe it's an ostrich burger. Maybe it's a bison burger. Maybe it's, fish, sardines, canned salmon, wild salmon, branzino, anything you want. Mix it up, okay? Also, animal foods are good for those of you who do eat it because they're very high in nutrients, especially for women to get in the extra iron eating meat once in a while. Those women of childbearing age, it can be very beneficial. And animal foods are high in B12, which you cannot get from vegan plant foods. And B12 gives us energy. So natural energy sources. In addition to the diet, this can also be supplements. Talk to your healthcare provider if you choose to take supplements or go on a plan. But these are some of the best ones for improving mental clarity in the workplace and at home, to be sharp and clear. Vitamin C, not just in citrus fruits. Vitamin C is in baked potatoes. It's in broccoli. It's in red peppers, okay? Iron, think about the color fuchsia, purple, red. Those are the foods high in iron, okay? Much more important for women than men. Prunes, spinach, raisins, beet, and obviously meat. B12, like we said, if you are on a vegetarian diet, you might want to think about taking a sublingual B12, or if you're just someone who gets brain fog or works out a lot or wants more energy, you can take a sublingual, under the tongue, little B12 tablet, and you're going to get a burst of energy. Healthy fats are very important for men and for women. They affect testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, etc. And these are found in healthy plant foods that have healthy fats, like avocado. Raise your hand if you've heard of chia seeds. Bunch of you, okay. Flax seeds, hemp seeds, so many. It's not just nuts. And if you do eat nuts, nuts can be great. Vary your nuts. Maybe it's pistachios one day, cashews. It doesn't just have to be peanut butter. So all these healthy fats are really wonderful, especially the meat of the coconut. So you might want to think about snacking on coconut flakes instead of chips sometime. Whole plant food in general will create this internal energy. Now, if you feel stressed out, raise your hand if you've ever felt stressed out in the workplace. Okay, the adrenal glands are the glands that sit on top of the kidneys, and they deal with all of our stress. So this is the good news for the salt lovers in the room. Salt will help to nourish the adrenal glands. So will vitamin C, and so will B vitamins. Now, this doesn't mean loading up on McDonald's and getting salty fries. This is natural sea salt, like you've seen in the grocery store, all natural sea salt or Himalayan sea salt. That's the kind you want to buy. It's not as processed, and it has what we call micronutrients in it. That's where the benefit lies. Okay, it's not just salt, it's the natural sodium, which is processed a little differently in the body. Now, if you like Japanese food, or even if you don't like Japanese food, you may like miso soup. Why is that good? That is a fermented soy, and fermented foods are very good for the body and for the adrenal glands. Cultured foods like yogurt, kimchi, and fermented foods, okay? Celery is a great source of natural salt. That's why we often put it in soups and mirepoix, right? In the base of a soup. Celery. Now, this might sound crazy, but celery, not only is it really good for hair and shininess, but it's also very good as a diuretic. So for those of you with high blood pressure who are trying maybe to watch your salt, celery is high in natural sodium for the vegetable category, but it's very good for the adrenal glands, okay? So don't feel like you have to omit that. Now, other ways to decrease stress, B complex. B is found, think about whole grains like quinoa, oatmeal, whole grain breads, whole grain pastas, things like that. That's your B vitamins. They calm you, they relax you, they fill you up, but they also energize you. So it's a fine line, it's a balance between, being calm but not tired and fatigued, but being sharp and clearing up. We want that balance. Vitamin C, like we talked about. Adaptogens. Raise your hand if you've heard of an adaptogen. A bunch of you. Adaptogens help you adapt, okay? And they're found in herbs. And the best way to take these is either through tea, which is the most harmless way, or you could take the capsule from your local supplement store. And some of the best ones are ginseng, which is a very common one. There's Siberian ginseng and other kinds of ginseng. There's Korean ginseng, there's American ginseng. Ashwagandha, and ashwagandha is a wonderful supplement. Now, these are great. These aren't to be taken all the time, but like, let's say you're under a period of stress, like you were in Asia and you have jet lag, or you've been sick, or someone in the family's been sick, like physically a cold, a flu. Or, for example, There's a death in the family and you're depressed, or there's financial troubles. For so many reasons, when you're going through a period of extreme stress, this is when you want to take that, and you want to go take that for about 2 to 6 weeks, okay? It depends. So we really want to support these adrenal glands with whole natural foods, natural sodium, vitamin C rich foods also can be taken in a supplement, your B vitamins, and hydration. One of the main reasons we feel tired is we are very thirsty, and we're literally dying of thirst. So by the time your brain tells you you're thirsty, it's a little too late. You want to drink a minimum of, like we know, 8 glasses of water a day. Not an exact science. For some people it's more, for some people it's less. But we want that water to get into the cells. Now, this is the good news for those of you who want other drinks other than water, is in freshly squeezed juices and things like that, green juices or freshly squeezed fruit juices, you're going to be able, because of the osmosis, to get those nutrients, those electrolytes, into the cells. We want our cells to be like grapes, not like raisins. If you're in the shower and your fingers prune up a little bit, has that ever happened, or in the bath? You're dehydrated. We want our cells to be like grapes. We want the water to go inside the cell. Why? It gives us clarity. It gives us energy. We feel sharp. We feel clear. We're hydrated. If our cells are like little raisins, if they're all dehydrated, if the nutrients, electrolytes, and water can't get in there, that's not a good thing. Okay, we're going to feel really tired. So if you're craving ice cream or something sweet, oftentimes in nature, sweets are found in fruits, and fruits have a lot of natural water in them. They're hydrating. So think before you go for the ice cream or the candy to maybe have a fruit first and see if that does the trick. This is just an example of a great type of juice. As you can see, I chose a green juice instead of a fruit juice because it's lower in sugar. So an example might be kale, parsley, cucumber, celery, apple, lemon, and ginger. You can mix and match any way you like. Good to add a little bit of apple for a little bit of sweetness, a little lemon for a little zing, and ginger for digestion is very good, gives it a little bite. You can mix and match any of the greens. This is high in chlorophyll. Anything green is a blood cleanser. You want to clean that blood so we don't get cancer and disease, right? Same with the red, like beets, blood cleaners. This is also very alkaline. Typical American diet, as we said, is very acidic. So we want to have a more alkaline diet. Okay, and let's say you don't want to eat 10 servings of vegetables. One of these is several servings of vegetables as far as how many nutrients and enzymes you're getting in there. Now, you're not going to get the fiber, and that's a bummer for many reasons. So you want to make sure that you're eating a lot of fibrous foods also, but this is a great way to get in those enzymes and the nutrients. This will activate digestion. Beets, one of the best. Anyone work out here or is an athlete or really wants to improve their athletic endurance? A few of you work out? Only 3? Okay. All right. Let's say, this is actually a great point. For those of you who really want to work out but you don't, let's say you're tired, you're a little lazy, you don't really have all that much time, and you're like, all right, I'll walk on the treadmill for 10 or 20 minutes. That's really all I can do, and that's exhausting. Beets are going to be perfect for you, or for the extreme athlete, because beets have natural nitric oxide. What does this do? This oxygenates the cell. So this will help you go harder, faster, stronger, longer. And I mean that with the exercise. It's going to make it much less effort while you work out. So you want to take that in several hours before you work out, or even the night before to really gain the effects. Ideally, it would be several hours before to get this oxygen in the blood. It's quite amazing. Arugula also has this nitric oxide. So if you were to have an arugula and beet salad, lunch before an afternoon workout, you would notice when you're on that elliptical, treadmill, bike, whatever it is, the difference in how you're breathing. You're like, what did I have today? I'm feeling so energetic, you know? It's high in iron, it improves endurance, it boosts energy. Beets are one of the best. Caffeine. Okay, how many of you drink some form of caffeine? Okay, raise your hand if you only drink tea. Okay, a few of you. And what about coffee? Raise your hand. And what about soda? Raise your hand if you drink soda. Okay. All right, so most of you are getting caffeine in some form or another, and there are pros and cons. So this is not a good or bad. This is just weighing your specific situation. Let's go through the pros first. It stimulates the central nervous system. That's good. That's great for hand-eye coordination. Clear, sharp, effective. Our brain's working full speed, so that's wonderful. Decreases fatigue. That's wonderful. Mood booster. The studies show that women who drink more caffeine are less depressed than those who don't. It contains antioxidants. That's wonderful. It stimulates peristalsis, helps us go to the bathroom, keep a clean colon. That's great. So many wonderful things, right? Cognitive ability, mental functioning, improving memory. Great, okay? Now, this applies to coffee and tea and chocolate. This does not apply to soda. The The negatives of soda outweigh the benefits, but we're talking about a pure plant food like a coffee or a tea, okay? The cons, again, stimulates the central nervous system. That's fight or flight. So that may make you, you're not running away from the bear like in Paleolithic times, Neolithic times, right? You're basically sitting at your desk. So you don't want to be too agitated, too much fatigue, too much anxiety. So if you're someone who feels a little bit addicted to caffeine because it can be addictive, you may want to consider going on a detox. The first 3 days are going to be hard, and then it will be easier, okay? For those of you who are trying to conceive, it can inhibit fertility and increase miscarriage risk. It does deplete minerals, vitamins, and electrolytes because it's a diuretic. So out comes water, but also all these electrolytes that we desperately need and all the nutrients like the B vitamins, which we desperately need for stress. For those of you who don't sleep well, it can affect the ability to fall asleep and to stay asleep. The half-life of caffeine is about 6 hours. So think about the last sip of caffeine you had and then what time you go to bed, and you can do the math, okay? The burn and crash engine, we don't want to feel like we're high, then we're low, we're high, then we're low. So one way to maybe think about how we can deal best with this is to add in some green tea. Now, I'm not saying that this is necessarily better than coffee, but it does have EGCG, which is a flavonoid, and this is very good as an antioxidant for our health. And it has L-theanine, which is an amino acid, and why is that good? It keeps us calm. You get the caffeine, you get the buzz, but yet you don't crash. It's like this, and then it's like that, okay? So green tea also is a thermogenic aid. The studies show that the more green tea you drink, the more fat burning will occur. So if you do nothing in your diet, and over the course of the year, you just start including a few cups of green tea a day, you might at the end of the year have lost, a pound, 2 pounds, 5 pounds, something like that. It's lower in caffeine than coffee, and it's loaded with antioxidants. It's very much an anti-cancer food. It's very healthy for us. Black tea and white tea also have some of these properties, but green tea is even higher. Coffee, tea, not the worst thing in the world, okay? Just watch, if you do, most people drink tea plain or maybe just with some lemon or something like that, but with coffee, oftentimes people will put milk and sugar in. So think about maybe using some cinnamon instead, which will help to stabilize the blood sugar, maybe using a milk substitute, like maybe trying almond milk, mix it up, maybe seeing if you can go without the sugar, and just add some cardamom powder or some vanilla powder. These are some superfoods, and superfoods are some of the best foods to get the bang for your buck for energy, anti-cancer, disease, mental clarity, sharpness, giving your body the nutrients that it deserves and that it needs, like avocado. It tastes delicious. Avocado, if anyone's ever cut into an avocado and then you rinse that knife off, it comes off clear right away. That avocado slides right off. It's low residue. It's not heavy in the body. It goes through us quickly. Even though it's a fatty food, it's a healthy fat. It's a monounsaturated fat. And it goes through us, and it has a whole lot of fiber. So it's wonderful, full of vitamin E. Now, if you were to cut through the same amount of fat grams worth of cheese, and then you try to wash off the knife, it doesn't really wash off because it's very high residue. It kind of sticks with you, stays with you. It doesn't have the fiber, okay? Cruciferous vegetables, that means cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, things like that. And that's very good as an anti-cancer food too. Very good for mental clarity. Wild salmon, much better than conventional salmon. Even better than organic salmon. The fish know what to do in nature. When we say organic salmon, what does that mean? That means it's in a fish farm. Otherwise, how would we know what it's eating to know it's organic, right? So wild is best, organic second best, conventional third. And this is your omega-3 essential fatty acids, great for those of you who might be depressed to boost your mood. For those of you who might have high blood pressure, it's wonderful for blood pressure levels. Cholesterol, very filling, very healthy food on all accounts. Olive oil, extra virgin is best, cold pressed, first pressed. Coconut, again, coconut oil can be fine, although it can raise cholesterol, especially for those people who already have cholesterol, already have high cholesterol. You may want to not take too much of that in, but it is very antimicrobial, antifungal, full of nutrients. Coconut is the best in the meat. It has tons of fiber, and it's very healthy component to our diet. A lot of manganese, a lot of healthy nutrients in there, a lot of amino acids. And the coconut water, the raw coconut water, like straight from the coconut, is wonderful. It's nature's Gatorade. It's lower in sugar than Gatorade or even orange juice. It tastes delicious. It can be used in emergency transfusion as plasma because it has the exact same electrolyte balance. So raw coconut water is a healthy food, and it's, again, like I said, if you're craving a fruit juice but you're trying to lay off like a lot of juice and things like that, and cranberry juice and Gatorade, you might want to think about coconut water. Superfoods, anything green. Why? We said that leafy greens and greens have a lot of chlorophyll, they clean the blood, and very alkaline, okay? Also, if you're stressed and you want to be calmer, green foods, naturally green foods. I don't mean green M&Ms, I mean green lettuce and cauliflower. Nuts are great too. Again, mix it up. Every nut has a different fat composition and a different nutrient composition. For example, almonds are one of the lowest in fat, but they have the skin that can irritate some people's digestive system and displace some other nutrients like calcium and magnesium, whereas peanuts have a lot of aflatoxins and grow in a moldy, dark environment, and almonds grow on trees in the sun and dry, so that could be better. But then pistachios are very good for lowering cholesterol. You know, different nuts have different compositions, so basically mix it up. Importance of fiber. I can't emphasize this enough. You want to try to have 40 grams a day, which sounds like a lot, but for our purposes of conversation, again, this isn't accurate. For purposes of conversation, you could assume that each plant food has about 2 to 3 grams. So you're talking maximum, you're talking about 15 grams a day, 15 servings a day, 15 servings a day. And if you have about 3 or 4 or 5 at each meal, 3 at each meal and a couple snacks, it's easy to get them in. Gut health. Okay, gut health, all our problems stem from gut health, all our health problems. So we got to clean up the gut first. Is satiety, it helps keep us full so that we don't eat junk. You want to try to get in most of your fiber by, let's say, 4 or 5 o'clock, okay? That means before you leave the workday. Why? First of all, that means you're getting all the nutrients in to cover all the bases so you're not malnourished. It's going to keep you full so you make better choices right after work. So you're not going for everything right after work. If you eat a junk food breakfast, you're going to eat a junk food all day long. Whereas if you eat a high fiber breakfast, the studies show that you might eat healthier the rest of the day. For those of you who want beautiful, young looking skin, it's great for skin health. The more orange and green and red fruits and veggies you can eat, the more beautiful your skin will be. The color, the texture, the water inside. So we want our skin, again, to be like a grape, not like a raisin, right? Full of enzymes. When we eat an apple, let's say, or berries, it has the enzymes in it, raw fruits and vegetables. Our bodies don't have to pull our natural enzymes. When we eat dead food, think about a box of Twinkies. Okay, that can stay there, a box of cereal, for a year on your shelf. It's going to look, the Cheerio is going to look the same a year later. It's dead food. Low vibrational energy. That apple, you take a bite, you put it out. High vibrational energy. We want food that's going to die. If you think about it, all plant foods have these enzymes, which means they're alive, high vibration, and that means they're going to die. And that's good for our system. Even beans, you might think, well, beans can last for a year. No, not once. They're edible. In order to eat them, for them to be edible, we have to reconstitute them with water. Once you've cooked beans, 3 days later, you want to toss those in the garbage, right? Same with pasta or rice. You're not going to eat that 3 days later. So when we eat a cooked food, it has to be, or plant food in general, a live plant food is what we want to focus our diet on. Also, for those of you trying to lose some weight, it's wonderful. The studies show the more fiber you eat, the more weight control you have, the better weight control you have, the better your weight is, the better your blood tests look, the better your cholesterol is. Stroke prevention, heart health, all those wonderful things. What about chocolate? We love it? Do we love it? Okay. Now, this is not the worst thing in the world, and that's the good news. If you're going to eat chocolate, you want to eat dark chocolate. It's as simple as that. And if you're someone, raise your hand if you only like milk chocolate. Okay, some. Or I was one of those people too, and I had to do the conversion, and it wasn't that hard. So, and now if you give me milk chocolate, I can't eat it at all. It's way too sweet. So you want, for those of you who are on the conversion path, you want to start with 60%, okay? You can do 60%. The good thing about dark chocolate is that it's a little bitter. The higher percentage, the 80% is very bitter. You can keep a bar at home. There's no way you're going to eat that whole bar. It would be hard to eat that whole bar. It's just not that good. Let's call it what it is. It's not that good, right? But it's good enough to get the pleasure center of the brain going. It has the antioxidants. It's a vasodilator, great for people with high blood pressure or circulation or cold. It's going to help improve blood flow, okay? It calms us. It has antioxidants. Again, you want to get the lower sugar, less dairy. That's the higher percentage. So you start with 60, you work up to 70, eventually you're at 80. Small amounts. You don't need a lot, a few squares. How to diminish damage from the business dinner. Let's say you know you're going to go out. It might not be a business dinner. It might be a Saturday night with your loved ones, whatever it is, someone's birthday. Adding spinach and tomatoes to a steak dinner would be great because of the arachidonic acid and the saturated fat and all that bad stuff in the steak. We want to mitigate that damage by adding foods high in antioxidants, vitamin C, B vitamins, okay? Green tea, let's say you love dessert. Green tea is a great way because remember how we said it's a thermogenic aid, it's a fat-burning aid, and it has antioxidants. It's going to diminish some of the damage from the sugar in that dessert. Now, this is a little quiz here. Adding berries to desserts. Well, there's the dead giveaway. But I was going to say, would it be better to eat that 100 calories of chocolate cake for dessert or eat that 100 calories of chocolate cake for dessert with a bowl of berries? We know that the berries alone are the best choice, but let's say you have the choice of berries with the chocolate cake. Just shout it out. Berries with the chocolate cake or just the chocolate cake? Berries. Okay. It's berries with the chocolate cake. And the reason is you might think, well, wow, that's an extra 100 calories and more sugar grams. No, because the fiber, the water, the antioxidants, the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals will mitigate the damage from the chocolate cake to some extent, okay? So actually it's gonna flush some of that fat right out of you because of the fiber in the berries. Just like if you had a child, you would say to your child, you're better off eating blueberry pancakes than plain pancakes, right? Okay. Adding vegetables to any meal and adding a lot more water to the diet, especially if you're a drinker. You might have an alcoholic beverage, swap that out every other drink with a glass of water, and always start with a quick glass of water. Energizing snacks. Now, these are just a few options, but coconut flakes, you can eat those like chips. Do you guys have a Trader Joe's in Texas here? Okay, so they have wonderful unsweetened now coconut flakes, or at the health food store, there's a brand called Luxco Organic. I have no affiliation with them, but there are a lot of organic brands out there. You could eat them like chips, and it has the fiber in them, okay? Trail mix. If you're going to do this, try to make your own with nuts, seeds, dried fruit, things like that. Hummus and celery. Hummus is just beans with tahini, right? Nuts and seeds and crackers. It could be, if you like chips, you might want to think about doing lentil chips, okay? Or even organic popcorn, like something like maybe Skinny Pop or something that's only 100 calories. It's a non-GMO popcorn. It's made with olive oil instead of your typical movie popcorn. Think about also having a mini meal as a little snack. Like if you were to get soup and a sandwich for lunch, maybe you have that soup as your mini meal, or maybe it's a little hard-boiled egg, or maybe it's, part of whatever you were eating before. You bring some leftovers from the night before. If you made rice and chicken and a vegetable, maybe that's your meal, because that's whole real food. There are tons of healthy, energizing snacks out there. It might be roasted edamame that are like chips. It might be dried and salted chickpeas or roasted chickpeas. There's so many different things. It just doesn't have to be fruit all the time. It could be even, dried fruit. There's so many options out there. It could be an organic plain yogurt. Have a support network. When you're trying to get healthy, it's very important who you surround yourself with. We do not want to be around people that are going to sabotage us, and we all know those people who are going to sabotage us. Come on, let's go, let's just do it, just one more. Being near supportive people, and maybe you can get together with your colleagues or your loved ones at home or your friends, and you can say, let's do this. A lot of people, I'm on this right now, do a January detox where you eliminate one thing. It might just be sugar this month. It might just be alcohol. It might be gluten. It might be dairy. You pick what your personal trigger is. You can choose one thing. You can choose 10 things. If you want to tell people, let the word out, because then you become more accountable, okay? And talk about your goals. And just basically visualize, being mindful. If you know that you have a very busy life with a lot of commitments and a lot of people expecting you to do certain things, you have to take care of yourself, and that means planning what your eating situation is going to be like each day. When you look at your calendar the night before you go to bed, think about what your day is going to be like. Do you have a breakfast meeting? What are you going to have for breakfast? Think it out. What are you going to have for lunch? What are you going to have for dinner? What are you going to bring for snacks, so that you come prepared and you're not having that impulse situation like we talked about at the beginning, that you come prepared. And then you visualize yourself eating this fiber. If you need a little help, there's a wonderful app for those of you with a smartphone, which I think at this point most of us have now, and it's called the Daily Dozen. And this gives us a list of everything that all these wonderful foods we're supposed to eat each day with little checkoff boxes. And when you get the number, you can check them off. And the goal is to kind of check off, instead of what you shouldn't eat, it's about checking off every box each day. So that's really great. This is a whole other talk that we can do, but I'm going to briefly touch on nutrition support, and this comes down to basically alternative theories and supplements. Raise your hand if you take any supplements. Okay, raise your hand if you take a multivitamin. A bunch of you. The fact of the matter is the tomato today doesn't have what the tomato had 50 years ago. It just doesn't, because of the soil rotation, because of the crop rotation, okay? They're not as nutritious as they used to be, unfortunately. It's just the way it is, even if they're organic. So in general. So we want to make sure that we do, if you have holes in your diet, if you're a drinker of alcohol, or you eat a lot of white bread, white sugar, grains, if you're under stress, if you're eating a lot of sugar, if you're eating a diet that you know has some holes or doesn't have all the nutrients that you think it needs, or is being depleted in some way, you may want to consider taking some supplements. And some basics would be like a coenzyme Q10, which is an antioxidant for those of you who want more energy and oxygen utilization. Antioxidants like CNE, adrenal support. Again, you can just get the stinging nettles tea. It's a lot less expensive than buying the capsules and a lot safer. And just sip this tea during the day. This will alleviate the itchiness for those of you with eczema, dandruff, things like that. It'll calm the body down. It's an anti-inflammatory, wonderful for the body, helps you adapt to your day so you can cope better. B complex, C, those are great. We're all deficient in zinc, especially around the holidays. We get colds and flus around the winter time, so think about increasing your zinc levels. That can just be something as simple as a zinc lozenge, okay? Or eating more brown rice and oysters and things like that. Ginseng, rhodiola, ashwagandha, we talked about. Now this is one of my favorites, herbs, because you can just look in your cupboard and you can find herbs. So if you feel like making scrambled eggs in the morning, it wouldn't hurt you to add a little herbs de Provence or a little basil, oregano, rosemary. This is a great source of nutrients. This is a great source of antioxidants, and it's so easy, and it tastes good. You could add it to soup, salad, sandwiches, in your salad dressing. You can get the tea also, or you can buy the essential oil. Now here you have rosemary as the herb that you can eat. You can also buy the rosemary essential oil. Why is rosemary so great? Mental clarity, sharp, clear, okay? Great for the workday. If you have trouble sleeping, under essential oils, lavender, you can buy, you know those little tinctures, the little bottles of essential oil? You can buy it and sprinkle a couple drops on your pillowcase. Put a couple drops in your hand, bring it to your nose, inhale. The molecules are so small in essential oils that they will pass the blood-brain barrier, an immediate effect to calm you, okay? Lavender comes in tea too, lavender Tulsi tea. I once made the mistake of having some before bed. I fell asleep, slept wonderful, had a wonderful night's sleep, woke up in the morning, it smelled so good. I said, oh, this smells so delicious. The tea bag had been steeping all night. I drank the half a cup in the morning, went to work. I literally fell asleep at my desk, had to go home and take a nap for 2 hours. It is so strong, lavender tea. It's better than any Ambien or anything that you could ever imagine. So be careful not to drink that during the day, too strong. Flower essence. Now, has anyone heard of Rescue Remedy or by Bach? Bach is a big company that does these flower essences, and this is an essence of the flower that's almost like a homeopathic medicine, no negative effects. You can spray it in your mouth or put it on your tongue, and it's going to create an effect in the body. If you want to know what effect, Rescue Remedy kind of covers the basis for stress and things like that, but they have very specific brands that can target very specific issues in the body. You can look that up online or go to your health food store. So in summary, optimal wellness will start with a healthy diet. We want to try to eat rainbow colors, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, every day. It doesn't have to be at every meal, but every day to try to get those in to cover the basis for the nutrients, antioxidants, phytochemicals, which means plant chemicals each day, and really trying to rein in. Maybe go on a detox first, or maybe slowly wean yourself off some of these processed foods, the fast foods, that deplete nutrients and cause fatigue. And if you do have to eat them, or you do choose to eat them, make sure you eat them with some fruits and vegetables to mitigate some of that damage. Thank you so much. That's all. I think we have time for a few questions. Anyone raise your hand? Mm-hmm. There's a microphone right there.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was wondering, you mentioned eating foods that don't have GMOs in them. I was wondering if you know of any research that shows negative effects of GMOs?
Yeah, you can look online. There's a great site that has all the journal articles, and it's called nutritionfacts.org. It's Dr. Michael Greger, and he's cited tons and tons of articles. This is just one source, but it's a great source. And he cited a lot of articles on that and a lot of other information, all based on research studies. So it's called nutritionfacts.org.
And then secondly, I was wondering, you mentioned 8 glasses of water a day. I tried to research once what is actually the optimal amount, and it seems like there wasn't really a whole lot of research on it.
Well, it's a broad number. It could be less or more, like I said, depending on the person. That's kind of to cover the bases. When we eat a food like an animal food that doesn't have a whole lot of water in it, it acts as a diuretic. Protein will act as a diuretic, all protein, okay? Caffeine will act like a diuretic. Sugar will act like a diuretic. A lot of these foods are depleting our water. Now, if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, you tend to eat more plant foods, you're going to get a lot more high water content foods, like fruits and vegetables that are heavy, like squash and watermelons and beans and all these things that have water in them. You might not need 8 glasses because you're eating so many fruits and vegetables. If you're someone who doesn't eat a lot of plant foods or a lot of, teas and water-based foods, then you might need more. It also depends on like how much you exercise. Your body will compensate, but we're talking about for optimal functioning.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for presenting today. Really enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you.
There are a lot of vegan protein powders on the market today, and I was curious to get your thoughts on consumption of those vegan proteins and meeting the 15 servings of plant meals a day.
So the question is which vegan protein, what do I think of them?
You talked a lot about eating foods that decay, like if you take a bite of an apple and leave it out. With a vegan protein powder, it's made of plant protein, but it'll sit on the shelf for a year and be just fine.
That's a great point. And I think that there's so much controversy, new information is constantly coming out. And I would say that you have to look at your specific individual diet and your specific issues. Vegan protein powders are often protein powders that are made from, like, for example, rice protein, brown rice protein, or it could be made from hemp seed protein or chia seed protein or pea protein. And so they're from plant foods, and they do have fiber and nutrients. So in that sense, they can be very healthy and cover the basis for someone who maybe doesn't eat as much plant food. If you're asking me if it's better than eating the actual plant, I don't think nature makes mistakes, and I think that it's still better to eat the whole natural plant in the whole natural form and not have it be broken down in a factory. That said, it can be a nice alternative or addition for diet, because the fact is most of us don't eat perfect all the time. So that could be something good to put in a smoothie if you're just someone who doesn't always eat super well and needs to get a little bit extra protein in.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
What are your feelings on the keto diets that are going around? That seems to be very popular with a lot of I know it's been around for a long time, but.
Yes. The ketogenic diet, yes. And this is a diet that's very, very low in carbohydrates and very high in certain types of fats. And this research has shown that can be very wonderful for people with seizures and other diseases. Sometimes it can be effective with autism or with autoimmune disorders. And there has been a lot of research to show that it can be very beneficial, the ketogenic diet. That said, it is a very, very difficult diet to follow. People who get used to it, who really need it and see the wonderful health effects, can stick with it as an anti-inflammatory effect to really help in many, many health issues that they have. But again, for the average healthy person, it's very hard to get that in, and you could be missing certain nutrients. I don't think it's necessarily appropriate for everyone to go on. But remember, for a long time when we were hunters and gatherers, we had a very different metabolism. We weren't eating every day. We were doing intermittent fasting, like it or not. Intermittent fasting means, and this is like on a similar path as the ketogenic, you're not getting carbohydrates all the time, and your bodies have to create ketones for energy. And so you might chase after that animal, that bear, eat him for 3 days, and then you're on tubers and roots and nuts and fruits, and then you don't eat for 3 days. We were surviving because of the ketones that our bodies would create for energy. So it can be really wonderful. There's a lot of research on that.
I love your talk. It's very informative. But I have a question on sugar. I am a sugar addict. I have been off sugar since January 2nd.
Congratulations.
And now I'm confused with all the Splenda. No, that's not good. Now there's sucralose, and then now there's stevia, the drops.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a better form of sugar than the chemically based nutritional?
Well, the
or
more
sugars?
natural, closer to nature is always better in that sense. Now, if you think about it, date sugar is actually just chopped up dates. It has micronutrients in it and actually has fiber in it. but it also has the calories and the sugar. So I think that the goal is, I mean, I definitely think artificial sweeteners are terrible for you because they turn into ethanol, wood alcohol in the body, and they have a whole host of problems that go along with artificial sweeteners, including brain function problems, et cetera. Stevia would be a better alternative, yet it's still processed. And then people talk about agave, which is a lower glycemic index product. And what about honey? Because honey is antiviral and honey is all natural. So it depends on your individual goals. If you're someone who is pre-diabetic or dealing with any blood sugar issues at all, hypoglycemia, pre-diabetic, or has a weight issue, if you're someone in that category, you want to try to change your palate. Our palates have such a high threshold for sugar that we want to rein that in completely for a day. We got to go through that period, no pain, no gain, of just 3 days. If you can do it for 3 days, you can do it for a month. Those first 3 days, and you say, I'm just going to eat fruit, fresh fruit, even dry fruit. The problem with dry fruit's very healthy. It has all the same nutrients as the fresh fruit, minus the water. The problem is, minus the water, think about it this way. How many grapes can a person eat? How many apples? How many sweet potatoes? At some point, you max out. Your belly just gets too full. It's very easy to eat a whole lot of raisins. So what happens is you end up eating a lot more sugar. And the problem with the sugar substitutes, or the stevia, or the agave, these sort of, or the date sugar, the coconut sugar, or the raw honey, is it's still feeding the craving. It's still going to raise that candida level in the body, which is the yeast that wants the sugar. So I would say, completely do your best to rein it in and kind of just stick with fruit for just a while. You decide what amount of time is right for you, a month, a week, 4 weeks, 4 months, and then you can decide and slowly, because we want to get to the point where, a fruit becomes sweet again, and then maybe if you have like a brownie once in a while or something, that's like super sweet. You only need a few bites or you only need a small one and that will suffice instead of eating sugar with other dates. And the coffee, the yogurt, the granola, then you have a cookie and then you have M&Ms and then you have, and then it's in the ketchup and it's in the pasta sauce, it's in the teriyaki sauce. So the goal really is to really rate. I'm so proud of you for giving this a try and I wish you the best of luck.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about gut bacteria and the development or change over your lifespan. A lot of the research that I read says that it's difficult once it's gone, or your particular makeup is what it is. So there's even talk about like fecal transplants and things like that.
Yes.
Can you change your gut bacteria?
Absolutely. Okay, this is one of my favorite topics, and he's asking about the microbiome, the gut bacteria. You can eat one meal and your microbiome will change just from one meal, one food. It changes so quickly. It's always changing. We all have a different makeup. Some people who have obesity have a different genetic makeup of different microbiome than those who don't. And fecal transplants, it's a whole other talk right there, is used sometimes to replenish the bacteria that we've lost through too many antibiotics and things like that. But that's kind of a last resort, and it can be beneficial for those who need it. But when we talk about the microbiome, remember when we talk about what are our goals? Happiness, health, clear, sharp, everything on our to-do list, checking it off, and not being sick, and not getting disease. We all have those same goals. It starts with the gut. We want a healthy microbiome, because if we don't have a healthy gut barrier, what happens is we eat something like a little gluten, a little bit of bread, a little bit of something with gluten, and there's micro tears in the gut lining, and these little particles and chemicals and gluten and proteins get out into the bloodstream and cause inflammation, which is manifesting as headaches, itchiness, eczema, IBS, Crohn's, colitis, diarrhea, constipation, and I can go on and on. All these bad things that we don't want because we have holes in our gut. And that's stemming from not good mucosal lining, not good bacteria. So, guess what? The plant foods that we talked about are prebiotics to the probiotics. They are the food for probiotics. So yes, it's wonderful to eat yogurt and pickles and kombucha and all these foods that have probiotics in them, or taking a supplement. But really, ideally, we want to be eating the food. FOS is one, fructooligosaccharides. We want to be eating the food, the fruits and vegetables that feed the probiotics so our body can naturally, and that's so easy and it's fun to eat real food anyway, and that would be the best way. But yes, one day of eating a junk food diet or one day of eating a healthy meal can change your microbiome. It's very important for immunity, most importantly for immunity. I think we'll take one more after that. Yeah?
So you mentioned the benefits of coconut water, and ideally, I would go outside to my backyard and get coconut water, but I try to be mindful and proactive, and I was reading that the brand of coconut water that I picked was really made from concentrated water, and it was not as healthy because
Yes.
everyone's on the coconut water bandwagon. So do you have any recommendations of some
And this
coconut
is,
waters?
yeah, that's a great question, and it's been disappointing because a lot of the brands, well, for example, if you see at the local market, they may have like Zico or some of these others. Those are either from concentrate and/or have been heated and processed to some extent, even sometimes adding natural flavors. Not a great choice.
Right.
When I say coconut water, I mean raw coconut water from the coconut,
Right.
which you can get at any health food store, any juice bar. All the markets now will have like where you can get a juice, cold pressed juice. And also, there are several brands out there that sell raw coconut water. It's not cheap, but they sell it. One is called Harmless Harvest. It used to say raw on the label. Sometimes they'll be a little pink. They'll be a pinkish color. And then they took off the raw. I called the company, and I'm still waiting for a response. They said they're going to get back to me, So to find out why did they take that off, are they, because it just says, if you look at the ingredients, coconut water, it's very confusing. That said, still better choice than, like, for example, Minute Maid or something like that. It's just
Okay.
high sugar.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.